In this Roll for Crit review, we're going to be taking a look at Pandasaurus' Umbra Via. In order to defeat your opponents in this game, you're going to have to bid wisely and outmaneuver them with the paths in order to reclaim all of your soul flowers first.
At the start of the game, each player is going to have their own bag of tokens. Some of those are energy tokens and some are soul tokens. The darker ones are the energy tokens, which are worth 1 point. The lighter ones are the soul tokens worth 2 points. They're a little more valuable. And at the start of each round, everybody's going to draw 3 random tokens from their bag, and then they're going to use those to bid on the 4 tiles displayed at the top of the board secretly. You're going to do this behind your screen by assigning them to the various numbers on your own personal little board. So no one else is going to know what's on there until everyone is ready, and then you will reveal at the same time, and now you transfer what you placed on that little board over to the corresponding tiles over there. So then everyone's going to be able to see what everyone has decided to bid on for that first round, but then there's going to be a second round where you're going to be doing the exact same thing once again with a new set of 3 tokens drawn from your bag. So you'll have a little bit more information heading into this second bidding round, but you're going to do the same thing, placing your tokens on your screen secretly, then revealing, and then showing everybody what it is, and now finally adding the finished tokens to the appropriate tiles, and that's the end of the bidding phase. There's only 2 rounds of it. It doesn't go beyond that. Once bidding is done, you're going to look and see the number of tokens on each tile. You're going to resolve those tiles and place them in order from fewest to most tokens placed there. Whoever has the highest point total there between the soul and energy tokens of their own colors is going to get the right to place that tile somewhere on the board.
When it is your turn to place, first you're going to remove all soul tokens on that tile from the game. They are only used during the bidding phase. You're going to place that tile, and you cannot rotate it. You must place it adjacent to another tile already on the board. Now, you can place it anywhere. It does not need to match up with the path, so you may even close off some paths some ways. You will continue this process until all of them have been placed, such that once that is done, you will then refill with 4 new tiles for the next bidding phase. If you find one with a strange symbol, such as this one right here, that is one of the special tiles, each one having their own rules. When you place your tile, if you ever close off such that either it reaches the edge of the board or it hits an end and doesn't connect, so there are no more openings, you are going to perform a summoning, pretty much scoring that path. The way that works is you're going to count up the number of your energy tokens on there. So in this case, blue has 3, red has 5, purple also has 5, and yellow has the most with 7. Yellow gets first place. What they get to do is remove a number of soul tokens from their tile there into their bag equal to the length of the path. In this case, 4. So they would get to remove 4. Then the next players get to score half of that. So in this case, red and purple tie. So they both get that, which would be 2, with blue in last removing 1. Then any other tokens on there are returned to your bag, and all tiles will be removed from the board, leaving possibly new openings or at least new places to play. This will continue until you have cleared off all the soul tokens from this tile. Then you need to win a path that is at least 2 long, and you have won the game.
As you can see, there are a few different primary aspects to this game. You've got the auction/bidding element, you have tile placement, and area control. Those 3 things together make up Umbra Via, but to me, the defining feature of it, I think, what I take away from it, what I think of when I think of playing this game, is the bidding component. I think that's the most important strategic area. You could argue that, but I mean, that's the one that leads to everything else. If you're not as good at bidding, then you're not going to get the good tiles. So it doesn't matter how good you are at tile placement. If you don't get them to place, then you're out of luck. And this game does a couple of very interesting things that make the auction element different from other games. One being that there are 2 rounds of bidding, so you kind of get a little sneak peek at what people are trying to do. And the other being that rather than having a fixed currency, like you don't have money that you're getting or gold or whatnot, everyone is drawing from a bag of these different tokens, your energy or soul tokens, which means that you all kind of have the same access to the same potential currency. So there's a range everyone's going to be in, but you can't do the thing where you are like, I know that guy has 9, so I'm going to outbid him by bidding 10. There's a little more to it than that.
Yeah, if I just said that this game had bidding with tile placement with area control aspects, you might think, oh, this is just a Chinatown. But because of all those changes to the bidding, I really think it stands out from the rest of the games that use auctioning as a core component. Like you said, because you have the multiple rounds, it's not simply just I can bid the most here and we're done. There's a bit more planning around and trying to trick people because also remember the tile with the least amount of bids on it will be placed first. So sometimes you have to decide, do I place there, but then it won't place first, so it's not as valuable anymore, which is sort of funny because as soon as you bid on it, it loses value. But the other really cool thing is that you could actually lose all the bids and be fine because your money doesn't go away. You still have your pieces on there, which could still hurt your opponent because you're like, I wanted to win that, but I didn't want you on there because it still adds to your score when you score or summon the paths when they close. So it really doesn't change. It's not an all or nothing situation when it comes to bidding.
That's true. That's true. You want to be winning some bids, but it's not as if like, oh, you wasted all your money and you're out of your money for that round. Like pretty much every round can be a reset to some
Exactly.
extent.
Which is, I didn't even think of that until now, but that pretty much means you're not going to have that one round, which has happened in plenty of games I've been in bidding. We're like, well, I have 3 coins, so you tell me when you guys are done because I can't win anything.
Yeah, and even if one player like is really close to winning, it's very possible for everyone else to then stop them from continuing further and for you to catch up. So even if it seems like someone's about to run away with it, there's pretty much always a time for you to potentially be able to make a comeback if you're playing smart enough, I think.
So it seems pretty obvious that you and I are big fans of the bidding. I know on average you tend to enjoy auction games more than I do, but I think we're still liking the changes they brought here because it keeps people engaged and also doesn't it seems to avoid most of the despair that can happen sometimes in auction games. In terms of the tile placement, it's it's interesting because you can't rotate them. I like that a lot. So there isn't that actually helps with the analysis paralysis because you don't have to think about like, is it better this way, this way? It's like, nope, that's what you
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
And like you said, because of the way that pieces, the energy tokens stay on there, there's still like, it's not just win or lose. You have to think like, if I place this here, I'm adding 1 to the blue player, but I get 3 for my red. So that's still hopefully should put me in first or at least second. There's still tiered winnings when the paths close.
Mhm.
And of course, as you said in our last game while playing, there's always because you can hypothetically, depending on the path on the tile, close it as soon as you place it. It can be a one tile close. So it's like, is it worth it for me to just score this now?
I do like you said, you can kind of go for two for different strategies. You can try to get a bunch of little paths, or you can try to get one big path. The risk there being that other people are going to piggyback on it. So you kind of have to read the game state, and one of those could be better depending on different times. One of my bigger issues with it, I love, like you said, also that you don't have to rotate the tiles. There's fewer things you got to think about, but there are still so many variables when it comes to the bidding, especially when you're up to 4 players. And you don't really know who's going to close a path, which one of these tiles is going to be placed first. There's so many possible ways they could put it. There were a lot of turns where I felt like I almost just want to bid randomly, at least for that first round, because I can't even begin to predict what's going to happen, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, and maybe more experienced players would not even agree with that. But I felt like there were a lot of times where I was just like, I could sit here for 10 minutes and try to think which one's going to trigger first, but it's just not going to do that. So I might as well just go all in on this tile and just hope for the best.
It really does require, I think, a bit on the board before you can do a bit more strategic bidding outside of just maybe placing everywhere or all in on a piece. Because, for example, let's say someone's in the lead and they've got a marginally good build up on one path, and one tile in particular would close that. Well, if you get that tile before them, or you can win another tile because too many people are bidding on that tile, then you might be able to mess around with their plans a bit at least. So there are ways to do that, but yes, I think with the nature, even with that first reveal during the bidding phase, there is going to be some of that chaos where you're like, wait, I thought you were bidding on that. Now you're all over here.
Right. Which is part of the fun. I will say this game has for how kind of abstract and sort of traditional a game it is, it has a potential for those, what I found surprisingly funny moments of, like you said, just being totally flabbergasted by, oh, every person wanted this tile for some reason, which doesn't sound that funny, but in practice, I was laughing while playing.
It works with that first bidding because you sort of get assumptions like, okay, we're all spread out, or like blue players over there, so I'll bid on the fourth tile. Next thing you know, 2 soul tokens are put there, and you're like, what? Where'd you all come from? So
What's going on?
I do think that works out really well for the benefit of the game. And even though, like you said, abstract is the right word, because even the way they reskinned it from the original prototype and the theme, I can't really tell you what's going on. The game mechanics, in particular, I think the bidding carry this game across that finish line of making it an enjoyable experience. Crits and misses for Umbra Via.
Crits. The bidding mechanics feel new and innovative in this title. There are 2 rounds of bidding that help inform your decisions, and drawing tokens from the bag means everyone has an equal chance of drawing different amounts of currency, and it's harder to know exactly what's coming up.
Players will always be engaged during the auction phase because they will always have the power to bid on pieces, as well as not being easily overpowered by one other player.
Winning bids is important, but even if you don't get to be the one who places a given tile, having your pieces there can still be a major win for you, and you're not locked out of the game just because you didn't have the most tokens there each round.
This game is less about who can win the most tiles and more who can strategically place their own tokens on the right tiles.
The game works best at the higher player counts, but there is a 2-player mode that throws in a non-player controlled neutral color to the mix, and it works pretty well.
The neutral color will be adding tokens into your own bag, which can be used to help win you auctions. However, they will hurt you when it comes to scoring during the summoning phase. Misses. Some rounds can feel pretty unpredictable or chaotic to players. Even with the first bid reveal, players may be shocked when all of a sudden people change their bids right away. And even if you get the chance to place a tile, you don't know what the board's going to look like when it's your turn to place it.
This can be a good thing because it means you never know quite what to expect each turn, but sometimes it goes a little too far in that direction, and you might feel like you can't even begin to come up with a plan.
The original prototype was about ferrying souls before Pandasaurus picked it up and added the flower theme. Still, I can't really tell you what's going on because they don't really explain it. I don't know whether there's still souls involved or whether we're just dealing with flowers, and the other pieces don't really help and add to the flavor.
For a game that's ostensibly about flower gardens, it's mostly black and gray. It's pretty drab to look at. There's not that much variation between the tiles. It would have been fun if there was a little more to spice up the look and feel and the flavor of the game.
Now, one miss I do sort of disagree with Jonathan is that I didn't think it was too unpredictable. It was just the right amount. Usually in these bidding games, I feel it's pretty obvious what people want, and usually then you just get outbid on there because people know you want a piece. And this, I was like, I sort of know what's going on, and maybe I'm surprised, but as long as I know that this tile's probably going to go first, probably someone's going to try to make that summoning happen if they can. But It sounds like for you, it felt a bit more unpredictable, or at least enough that it was an issue.
Very much so. Yeah, I definitely felt multiple times that I just couldn't. Like, I could try. I could be like, yeah, I think I want that piece. But it would often be like, that tile will be great if I can place it first. But if nobody else, if everybody else bids on it, or everybody bids on this one, or what have you, and I place it third, then my strategy, I just have to completely shift. And I sometimes just felt like I wish there was just a little something extra to like focus in a little more.
I get you, and I feel part of the reason maybe I didn't feel that as much. I mean, I still had sometimes more that I just didn't get to place anything in a round, is because my thought process in the strategy was like, oh, if I place a little bit everywhere, I'm everywhere. So like, I think that just happened to be the mental state I was in, because I get where you're coming from, because, and I think it also adds the joy, like we mentioned earlier, be like, wait, everyone's on this tile now? Especially because those soul tiles, which do get removed afterwards, but they still can like really shift, where like, I don't think I can be outbid here. And he put 2 soul tiles.
Yeah, and even
Tokens, sorry.
some people, even including myself at times, will probably like that and find that that's fun to be like, oh, what I thought was going to happen, now it's totally different. It kind of depends on your mood and how the game is going for you, I think. But overall, I really like this game mostly on the strengths of the bidding mechanic. I think the stuff they added there was really good, and I think if you like bidding games or like more abstract titles, it's worth taking a look at this one.
I agree with that. It's not that the tile part was unfun or something. It's that the bidding phase was always, I think, entertaining. You always felt like you had to think. It wasn't just like those turns where you have so much money, like, oh, I'll just keep dumping money on it until everyone leaves it alone, or I have no money, so I can't do anything. I think it made sure no one felt disappointed because their past turns ruined their next 2 rounds of bidding, which is really nice. And also, because the way you bid doesn't just mean it's not a zero-sum game. Like I said, you spread a little bit everywhere. Maybe you can start being annoying for everyone because you're just there. So overall, I think they did a good job there. I do want to quickly touch up a little bit more on the 2-player mode because we talked about that in crits and misses. Mostly because, one, for me, if you were to say bidding game, I think, Jonathan, you'd be like, that's not a 2-player thing. I think bidding works when you have a lot of people. And in this, they did this really clever thing where there is a neutral color, and you start off with some of that color in your own bag, and they will still work for you. So you do have to separate to make sure whose side is on, which one of the, like we had red for our neutral belongs to which player. But they still help you win those tiles. But once they're on the board, they can steal the summons. And then if their color gets all their soul tokens removed, you get this fun sudden death mode. So I think they actually came up with a very fun 2-player mode that doesn't just feel like a smaller version of the regular one. I actually think you are thinking differently with your, like, how do I spread out this red token versus my own tokens and stuff? Almost like its own little game.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I still feel like it feels a little bit like they have to make some there's some trade-offs. There's
but
in exchange for that. I found it kind of annoying to have to be like, why is that your red or my red right now?
Yes, that was something that was a little bit annoying. Like we discussed, maybe there would have been a way to try to use the other color, but I think it would have been just as annoying or something. So,
but yeah, it is pretty good in the scheme of things. Another Furnace was another recent game that I think we also praised for having a pretty good 2-player auction mechanic. So there's ways to do it. There's ways to do it right out there, and I think this is for the most part one of them. That's our thoughts on Umbra Via. This game is available right now. You can let us know if you've had the chance to play it, what you think, what your strategies are, how you feel about the bidding and everything else we discussed in the comments section down below. And we would love to read those. Really, we would.
Let us know if you actually know what's going on in this game, or if you had the chance to play and what your thoughts on the bidding mechanic are, and if it's too chaotic or is it just right. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this is Roll for Crit. You have reached the end of the video, but before you go, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and maybe try to help us out on Patreon if you can. If you want to hear more from us, we've also got a podcast. This is released weekly, and there'll be links down below for wherever you want to listen to podcasts.